the heart and soul behind every business. Stories. Welcome to Business Story of the Week, hosted by me, Joshua Laurie. From setbacks to comebacks, from tragedies to triumphs, we inspire entrepreneurs through conversations that matter. Witness the magic that turns dreams into reality. Whether it's your career, business, or life, your success is always one story away. This is Business Story of the Week.
Hi, my name is Peggy Sullivan, and I'm a busyness addict in recovery. And I am so happy to be with you today for Business Story of the Week.
And that
Hello.
is hello, ladies and gentlemen. That is Peggy Sullivan, the lovely Peggy Sullivan, our guest for today. And I am your host, Joshua. And today's question is, well, we asked the age-old question of how can doing less actually help us achieve more? And Peggy is the perfect guest to answer that question today. Peggy Sullivan is a speaker, workshop facilitator, performance management consultant, and best selling author of several books, including Beyond Business: How to Achieve More by Doing Less. As a business addict in recovery, like you mentioned earlier, Peggy has found that there is a huge price tag that comes with business and is on a mission to mitigate time poverty. I love that, by the way, with her proven busy busting framework. We're going to talk about that today. Recognized by Entrepreneur, Forbes, Inc., Bloomberg, Fox, CBS, and NBC, Peggy's data-driven strategies have helped individuals from global organizations like Bank of America, Google, Merrill Lynch, John Hopkins, and Blue Cross
Mhm.
Blue Shield break the cycle of business, and she's going to help us break that cycle today. I am so excited for this one because I'm so busy. A lot of our audience and listeners are busy as well. Peggy, thank you for coming on the show. How are you doing?
I'm great. And time poverty is actually an issue that 78% of the population
Wow,
struggle with. I got really curious about time poverty because
very
not
interesting.
only was it damaging my life, and not only was there a pretty significant price tag for it, but I realized that everybody around me was busy and
Mhm.
was paying a really big price for it. So I started about 10 years ago to develop a program that I call the Busy Busting Framework. And
Mhm.
surprisingly, it is very, very easy. All
Wow.
you have to do, step one, is eliminate low value activities. We spend a lot of time doing
Mhm.
things that have low value. Maybe you're looking at email in the morning instead of getting to your priority tasks.
Yes.
Be your boss comes in and says, Peggy, can I have a minute? And that 5 minute turns into 10 minutes and 20
Oh no.
minutes. And you don't want to say to your boss, sorry, I need a minute. But actually, you stop and start so many times that
Mhm.
it isn't healthy for your work cycle.
Of
So,
course.
knowing and understanding how to eliminate low value transactions is a part of the process. And it really gives you back time in your day
Mhm.
to do the things that you want to do and the things that you should be doing, like strategic planning, white space thinking, taking your
I
breaks,
love that.
going for a walk, getting a
I
good
love that.
night's sleep, all of that stuff.
Mhm. And of course, my favorite part there is a good night's sleep. We are all lacking because of time poverty. We are losing sleep. We are losing good night's sleep, Peggy. But Peggy, before we really get into nitty gritty of this, what was a young Peggy Sullivan? Did she always know she was going to be a business addict, let alone become a performance consultant and become a recovery and teach all the things? What was the young Peggy Sullivan like?
Young Peggy Sullivan was eat, work, sleep, repeat.
Mm,
My always on lifestyle, it just led me in every direction. I was a
mm,
single mother. I had a amazing demanding career and I tried to keep all the balls in the air. But unfortunately, they came with a little bit of a price tag. And so that is why I really wanted to learn something different. For me, one of the things that I found myself doing on a regular basis was really stepping into this place that I called a mindless haze. And that was
Hmm.
not really thinking about everything that I was doing. So, for example, I came home from work one night and I was really,
Okay.
really hungry. So I
Hmm.
grabbed a bag of pistachio nuts and started chewing on them, eating them. They
Hmm.
were going to be my nutritious dinner. I was really hungry too. So he started
Hmm.
scratching up my legs, and I realized, gosh, I haven't been home for 10 hours. I better feed
Oh
him
no.
too. And I fed him, and I fell asleep on the couch. And I
No.
woke up to this horrible gagging noise. And I look up, and it's my cat throwing up pistachio nuts. And I look down,
Oh
and I
no.
realize I just
You
ate
fed.
cat food for dinner.
No.
And I
Peggy.
was
Oh
in
no.
such a burnt out haze. Remember thinking to myself,
Peggy.
these are salty, these are chewy. I need to go to the store and get some new ones. But I just kept on chomping. And there's the
No.
obvious
Peggy.
side effects of busyness. But normally, what
Hmm.
happens is we enter into this burnt out phase and we
Hmm.
end up doing very careless things that sometimes have a pretty significant price tag. Have you ever eaten cat food for dinner?
Oh my goodness, Peggy. I'm fortunate I have gotten to that point, but Peggy, we've gotten to a lot of breakdown points as well. We wouldn't be alone. I wouldn't be alone in that. I mean, I've reached a point of mental breakdown, emotional breakdown because I was so burnt out. I was so busy. I didn't know how I was going to handle all my emotions that came all flooding together. But Peggy, this is the result of a romanticized hustle culture, right? Because we're told to like hustle. Hustle is the only way. Be busy because if you're not busy, you're unproductive. But the thing is, busyness, unproductiveness, it's different. There's ways to separate both of these things. And one of the things that me and my business partner talk about and what we say is like rest is also part of work. Recovery is also part of work, much like exercising as well. But Peggy, your journey from a business addict to a performance management consultant, what was it that, well, of course, you mentioned that cat food fiasco. Was there a very more significant moment, pivotal moment where you said, nope, this isn't the way, business addiction is, rampant. I see it everywhere. How am I going to change it? When did you decide that?
Yeah, there was a series of what I call episodes that happened. But
Mhm.
about 10 years ago, I was on the way to the grand opening of a nonprofit that I was about to start. And I was so excited and stoked to go, but I was
Mhm.
busy. And I got into the car, and I remember that my mind was churning about everything that I had to do. And next
Right.
thing I know, I wake up and there are five firemen trying to pull me out of my
No,
upside down car. Yeah.
Peggy,
And I can
Peggy,
remember being in the car, being upside down, and the first thing on my mind was, I got to get to this event. I wasn't
no,
thinking about
Peggy.
my health. I wasn't thinking about the fact that I crashed my new car. I wasn't
Oh my
thinking
goodness.
about anything like that. And that was my wake up because it really made me understand that busyness was controlling me. I
Mhm.
wasn't controlling it. And because I couldn't go to the biggest night of my life, it really made me think. But it wasn't just about me, it was the effect that it had on everybody. The board of directors that expected me to be there, all of the
Right.
customers, all of the clients. There were
Oh my.
thousands of people that had signed up to go to that event, and I was a
Mhm.
no show. So that made me realize how much my hustle, my scurry, the price tag that it had on me, but also the people around me, my loved
Yes, of
ones.
course.
My first marriage ended in divorce because, quite frankly, I didn't put time and energy into it. And
Mhm.
relationships take time and energy, whether they're personal ones or professional ones. In the
Of course.
workplace, you really need to have a relationship with your employees, to understand what motivates them and really who they are as people so that they can perform at their best.
Well, Peggy, I am terribly sorry about that outcome. But of
I'm
course,
not. I'm
like you said,
thrilled because, quite honestly, all of these
uh,
things led me to where I am today. And I
mhm,
think, thank goodness I had a couple of wake up calls that weren't tragic. So I'm
mhm.
fine with it all. And my new book, Beyond Busyness, gets into a number of different wake up calls that people all over the world have caused them to look for an alternative. So let's spend a minute talking about the alternative. I developed
Oh,
some
please, I'd love to that.
I developed something that I call the Busy Barometer. It measures 24
Oh,
points of low value
wow.
activities because
Mhm.
really low value activities are habitual. I always in my speeches
Yes.
tell people cross your leg and then ask them, did you cross your right leg or your left leg? And then I ask them to cross it again.
Okay.
Did you cross your right or
Cross
your
my
left
leg.
leg?
I cross my right leg. I usually do.
Okay, right. It's
Hmm.
habitual. This is what we do. And our schedules are habitual. We get used to doing the same things. I have a friend who goes to work early every single day. She heads up a very large customer service department, and she wants to spend the mornings looking at the metrics and the performance of the people in her department. But instead
Okay.
of doing that, she spends the morning looking at emails that came in from the West Coast because they're gnawing at her. Next thing she
Mhm.
knows, she's
Okay.
looking at emails from the East Coast. Next thing
Of
she
course.
knows, it's 11 o'clock and she hasn't done the most important thing that she came in early to do. And that was to
Of course.
really look at yesterday's performance and coach her team so they could get
Hmm.
stronger and they could get better. So the Busy Barometer, which is on my website, is a great tool. It's a 4 to 5 minute survey that will identify 24 points of low value transactions. And I'm glad you talked about health because you're right. You need to recharge your batteries. Getting a good night's sleep, eating, taking time out, exercising, all of them contribute to our ability to focus and our brain to work at its maximum capacity. But there's another step in the busy busting process outside of
Oh,
subtraction
interesting.
that I like to talk about,
Please.
and that is
Please, please.
mojo making.
Ooh, what is this about? So Mojo Making is adding a little bit to the business barometer, but something more on the health side, perhaps?
Well, it's a good question. So once you know what your low value transactions are, and you can eliminate
Hmm.
them, and you have a little bit more time for the things that are more important, you need to get out of the habits that you had. You need to break your old habits. And because it feels so good to get something done, every time we get something done, we get a hit of adrenaline, dopamine. So we do it again and again and again. And
Yes.
that is why
Yes.
busyness is habitual. You need to replace that dopamine
Of
with
course.
something else. So, what I do
Of
is I
course.
teach people that happiness, it's not a thing,
Hmm.
it's not a destination. When I get to the
Hmm.
weekend, I'll be happy. When I get the promotion, I will be happy. But it's more about
Oh,
these tiny micro moments that we
mm,
create for ourselves. I call them happiness
yes.
rituals. So every single day at 11 a.m. in the morning,
Wow.
I have three
Interesting.
pieces of Dove dark chocolate. I close my eyes and I enjoy them. 5 minutes, that's it. But
I
yet,
love that.
maybe it's the cacao or maybe it's that 5 minute break, but I am
Hmm.
refreshed, recharged, energized. And people need to intentionally do this. When I worked at
Hmm.
United Healthcare, I was really curious as to whether happiness rituals worked mostly in the individual level or the
Right.
organizational level. So we brought them
Hmm.
into that organization when I had 7,500 employees working for me. So we all got together on
Hmm.
Zoom for happiness rituals 3 times a day. The team loved
Wow.
the dance parties and they loved telling jokes and watching funny videos.
Wow.
So much the fun and the collaboration and the teamwork and the camaraderie that really changed. What
Hmm.
changed was performance metrics. They improved by
Oh,
33%, and employee engagement
wow.
improved by 40%. And that was the
Wow.
power of Mojo Making, taking 10 minutes a day during a busy day to reset, recharge, refresh, but making it a habit.
Making it a habit and making it intentional. I think that's what we're missing today. It's because we feel like we're doing activities that we want, but at the back of our minds, we're thinking about deadlines. We're thinking about to-do lists. We're thinking about, I feel like that intention of soaking in that dark cocoa, like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, closing your eyes. This is my time. This is my moment. I will enjoy it. And I feel like that 10 minutes actually gives very, very exponential returns in the sense of were able to take back much of your time and make it your own. And I think that alone mitigates time poverty.
Yeah,
I
and
love it.
Josh, it's also biological and it's neurological because of what happens in your brain when you release
Hmm.
dopamine. It just gives you more focus, more energy. Happiness is a
Hmm.
superpower that I think we don't realize. I mean, happy people live longer, they have less chronic
Hmm.
disease. And let's face
Hmm.
it, who do you want to be around? A happy person or a gloomer doomer? We love being with happy people.
Of course, we love being with happy people. And I think the most important person to make happy is yourself, right? If you're not happy and you don't want to be with yourself, right? Peggy, this is very, very wonderful because to me, it keeps going back to be like if our schedules were like a garden, and these unnecessary business are the weeds. It's like you have to take these weeds out in order for productivity to bloom. Why do you feel like we are less, less we don't want to take care of ourselves when it comes to this. What? Because there's always that busyness, and we feel like again productivity equals busyness, not all the time, but there's that sense of productivity of just thinking we're checking through emails, we're feeling like we're productive. Why do you think we put busyness first over our own health most of the time?
It's societal. I mean, normally we think busyness equals success, and many times we see
Hmm.
it. I grew up with a father who was an immigrant who came over from Germany, World War II,
Hmm.
and he came over with nothing. And so he had to go to
Wow.
work at a really young age. And that was
Hmm.
back in the day when there weren't cars. And he got a wheelbarrow and he took groceries to and
Wow.
from the corner market. And he at a very young age really got conditioned to eat, work, and sleep. It was necessity. It put food on his table. So I, as a child,
Hmm.
watched him. And my father was successful. So I don't
Hmm.
know if busyness is hereditary, but we certainly learn a lot from our parents. And I watched my
Yeah, I
parents
agree.
work very, very hard. And so for me,
Hmm.
that was what I saw. If you want to be successful, you need to work
I
hard.
see.
But here's the thing that I've learned that is so
Hmm.
amazing is that you can
Hmm.
actually get more done with less. You are more
I love that.
productive when you are recharged
Please.
and energized. And busyness is
Hmm.
really an act of self sabotaging. Do you know that
Mm,
65% of working Americans do not actually have the time to get through their corporate priorities because they overschedule
wow.
ourselves? So let me ask you a
Wow.
question.
Wow.
Who keeps your schedule?
Wow. I keep my own schedule. For most
Exactly.
of
So
us, I
isn't that
feel. Mhm.
self-sabotage?
Oh my goodness. Of course, Peggy, right? And how common is that with especially with our audience and listeners? I feel like it applies to business owners as well, entrepreneurs, startups. I mean, you say that you control your time, you become an entrepreneur because you hold much more of your time, but you just keeping yourself more and more busy. So how do you it's self-sabotage if you're the one controlling
Mm.
your schedule and you're not pulling out these weeds in your gardens. I love that. I love that concept, and thank you for calling that out because that truly is self-sabotage, Peggy. Peggy, this is revolutionary. I feel like the real cost of busyness isn't being talked about enough, and of course, this is something that you teach, changing the way we approach professional success, approaching our personal well-being when it comes to the cost of business, and taking back our time poverty. Of course, the website is peggysullivanspeaker.com. If you want to invite Peggy around the world and everything that she talks about wherever you are, I think this is very, very important because this is a topic that I think is killing off a lot of our bright minds, bright entrepreneurs who have good work ethic, but they've made that work ethic their identity.
Yeah,
And I think it's killing off a lot of us.
yeah. You,
Peggy, where else can we find you? Where else can we learn what you do?
you can go to my website and purchase or look at my new book. You can go to my website
Hmm.
and look at blogs. You can go to my LinkedIn
Hmm.
profile to learn more about my busy busting process. There's a lot of
Busy
Peggy
busting.
Sullivan out there.
There is a lot of Peggy Sullivan out there, but also a lot that means a lot of people or addicts who are trying to recover, who wants to recover from that busyness and come away with a more, well-being. Peggy, your book, of course, is entitled Achieving More with Less. One last thing to leave behind to us. How do we achieve more with less? What would that be? One last bit of wisdom for our audience to listen.
Subtract low value transactions and make time to Mojo Make. Those would be my two pieces of advice. Get rid of the stuff that
Excellent.
doesn't add value. And by the way, that can be people too.
Oh, interesting. Of course, because they could be taking from you instead of adding to you. I love that. And that could be your team, that could be your family. Hmm. It also goes back to the support group. Peggy, you have been loved. This has been such a wonderful insight, and with the time that we've had, there's so much, golden richness of knowledge that we've gotten from here, and a very important message, by the way, because again, we need to talk more about this, and I feel like there are going to be a lot of recoveries that needs this
Yeah.
message. Peggy, thank you
Busyness
so
is
much
an
for coming on the
epidemic,
show.
and it's not just for busy entrepreneurs. It's not just for individuals. It's not just for moms, organizations. It is
Epidemic.
everywhere. We are a hustle society. It's time to get off the hamster wheel and lead a life that has more meaning.
And slow down. Peggy, what do you do to slow down right now that you're not so busy?
I love to work out. I love hot yoga. That's my passion. But I also love my fur baby, and my fur baby gives me so much joy. I have a 25-pound cat, and I put him in a stroller and I walk him around the neighborhood, and
It's
it
so
gives me
cute.
so much joy to watch him look around, but it also gives me joy because
Oh,
people
adorable.
they run over to the stroller and they'll be like, let me see
Yes.
the baby. And then there'll be my beautiful
My
cat peeking
baby.
up there. And it's just a fun thing that I
Mhm.
do that really is a great icebreaker for meeting new people. But also, I find a
Of
lot of
course.
enjoyment in it too.
And I hope our audience listeners find that joy as well and that love in their lives and find more time to do what they love. Again, get off the hamster wheel and get on Peggy's busy busting, ideas. And Peggy, thank you for coming on the show. Thank you for sharing all of that.
You're quite welcome. Thank you, Josh.
Again, the website is peggysullivanspeaker.com. Get connected with Peggy on LinkedIn. Ladies and gentlemen, audience and listeners, thank you for watching the episode. We will see you on the next one. Bye bye.
All right, so here's the thing. We try to get a little bit better every day, but we can't do it without you. So if you like the video, make sure to like and subscribe below. And if you have any comments, just leave them in the space under.